Hi, I'm Yolanda, coming to you from the offices of Harper Therapy in the Tampa Bay, Florida area. And I wanted to share with you a little bit today about the strong process in our relationships with our partners. A lot of times we get into a way of interacting with one another that's not a great way of interacting. It's not a great state of being. Instead of a romantic waltz or a sexy tango or sexy salsa, we end up doing the funky chicken or the electric slide where we're stepping on each other's toes. So the rising strong process helps us to recognize these missteps and helps us to interact with one another in more brave and authentic and intimate ways. So the rising strong process is a three strong process: the reckoning, the rumble, and the revolution. In the reckoning, we're going to recognize when we have been hooked by emotion. Uh, our romantic relationships are intensely emotional. That's what makes them so intimate. And when things go wrong, that's what makes them so painful. So we're going to recognize when we're hooked by emotions of fear, anxiety, anger, grief, disappointment. And then we're going to check in. We're going to rumble with the story that we're telling ourselves. The stories that we tell ourselves from intensely emotional experiences are not accurate stories. They're full of conspiracies and confabulations. Conspiracy is a limited amount of information that's accurate, and then we fill in the gap. Our brains fill in the rest of the story, whether it's accurate or not. A confabulation is a lie told honestly. So we're going to recognize those stories that are full of inaccurate ways of believing things. Then we're going to tap into the revolution of doing things in a different way, of interacting with each other from these more accurate states, from these more accurate stories, and from calmer places. So, just to share a little bit of what this looks like in real life, there was a time when I was going to get ready for work, and I went to get into my car, but my car would not start. The battery was dead. So my husband, who works from home, was inside. I ran inside and said, "Hey, my car won't start. Do you mind if I borrow your car?" He said, "Not a problem. Go ahead." So I jumped in his car, drove to work. On my lunch break, I ran to Sam's to get a new battery. Was in a rush, didn't think too much about it. They offered to install the battery, and I was like, "I don't have the car with me. I'll have to take it home." So I put the battery in the car, drove it home without a second thought, asked my son, who happened to be home, it was summer, to install the battery for me. And he went to get it out of the car and he said, "Sure, Mom, not a problem, but why is the battery wet?" Didn't really think too much about it. It had been raining. I put the battery in the cart. I just assumed that the battery was wet from the wet cart from the rain. Well, didn't think anything about it. Jumped back into the car, went back to work. End of the day, went to get back into the car, and there is a hole in the leather seat about this long from where I had put the battery. And apparently it wasn't wet from the rain. Apparently there was a battery acid leak that ate through the leather seat. So I'm driving home, and all of a sudden I think I'm going to need to pull over because I'm going to be physically ill. Because I do what I do and I try to practice what I preach, I kind of stopped and took some breaths and checked in with the story that I was telling myself from that intense emotional state of fear, of anxiety, of panic. And that story was, oh my gosh, this is it. It's over. He is going to leave you. You might as well wrap it up. It's been a good ride while it lasted, but there's no way he's going to stay with you after ruining his leather seat. Obviously, this was not an accurate story. My husband and I have been together for about 27 years now in all, and the thought that he would leave me over a hole in a leather car seat is a little bit ridiculous. So I pulled up into our driveway and sat there for a few moments to calm all of that heightened emotional state and to check in with that inaccurate story that I was telling myself and to replace that with a more accurate version of the story, because I am really embarrassed and ashamed to admit this, but if I hadn't done that, I would have literally stormed into the house and told him how it was his fault that there was a hole in his seat in the car. I don't know exactly how that would have played out. I mean, I would have made it work somehow, but I'm a blamer. That's what I tend to do when the stakes feel high. And you can imagine that that would not have gone very well. So instead, I was able to remind myself in that driveway as I sat there and I calmed myself of the good relationship that we do have, of the ways that I could take accountability and take some action to rectify the situation. And I was able to walk in a much calmer state and just check in with him, apologize to him about what had happened to his car, and get some guidance and direction on the next step of making things right. So that's my example of how the Rising Strong process has helped me in my marriage relationship. And what I'd like to invite you to do is check in with us to see when our next Rising Strong workshop is for couples, so that you and your partner can learn the process, the Rising Strong process, to start putting it in action in your own relationship. So if any of this sounds familiar, even remotely, as to the way that things go in your relationship, and I know it does because we all do these things, and you're interested in learning more, contact us at info@Harper Therapy. Give us a call at 813-434-3639. Check out our website at harpertherapy.com so that you can find out upcoming workshops. Thanks for spending some time with me. I hope this was helpful. Looking forward to connecting with you some more.